I don't really know how to start these things. So this is going to be a bit different to what is usually on this channel. Up until now, it's just been podcasts, kind of solo podcasts, mixed podcasts with other people, and then podcasts by myself. Why aren't really podcasts? They're just me speaking to the camera and talking about my ideas. In this episode, this will be episode 1 of my journey of training towards a triathlon as a real estate agent, full-time real estate agent, or leasing manager, full-time leasing manager, real estate agent, whatever, in Dubai. So this is to provide people kind of an insight into my life so I can document my journey, and also balancing a full-time job of 50 hours per week with triathlon training. So I'm going to break down exactly why I'm doing it. I'm going to break down what I needed to get started, the costs, and all of the insights and the learnings that I've had over the last 3 weeks. This is my 3rd week into training. So a little over a year ago, I started running for the first time. All I had been is a gym rat previously, just in the gym, bicep curls, bodybuilding kind of style stuff. Wasn't really kind of enjoying it, got very kind of disengaged from the whole thing. And about a year ago, I started training for a 10K. Training with my brother, who is a health and performance coach, coaching me towards my first 10K. And that was the first time that meaning was brought into my training, that I was training for a purpose, that it was something other than the way in which that I looked, and more for the performance aspect of it. Initially, I had a bit of resistance to it, but after my first race, I was absolutely hooked. Following that, done my first half marathon. That was in January of 2024. And that was obviously the longest distance I ever ran. And then towards May of 2024, I did my first marathon, which was in Prague. After the marathon, kind of started thinking, okay, what else could I do? What could I start training towards? I could keep doing some marathons. I could do some ultra marathons, see what I'm actually capable of within that running space, or I could completely reach outside of my comfort zone. I chose the latter as to why this video is being made and this episode is being documented. I decided to start training for a half Ironman. The reason in which is my brother, who I spoke about being the guy who coached me, he decided that he was going to do a half Ironman in April 2025. Bit far away, April 2025. It gives me enough time in order to train towards it. But what I'm going to do is set my sights on a December triathlon. Start of December, just over 2 months away, going from just doing a bit of running and a bit of gym to trying to do a triathlon. If I will succeed, I do not know. It will unfold over the next few episodes, over the next few months. It was kind of an impulsive decision, but once I made up my mind, I made up my mind. So running is something that I've completely been comfortable with, something that I've done for the last year now, and I've gotten quite proficient at it, decent in terms of kind of my ability and also kind of the training towards it. I've built a decent aerobic base when it comes to that training. Leading up to the marathon, I was doing long runs, training 3 times per week for running, or 4 times per week in some cases, doing long runs on a Sunday up to 30, 32, 36 kilometers. So I've built a decent base when it comes to kind of general fitness. When it comes to swimming and it comes to cycling, that's where my big kind of downfall is, specifically and especially in swimming. Cycling, I mean, all you have to do is pedal. It's really not that deep, and kind of work your way up. Swimming, completely different kettle of fish. Like, me is thinking about the fact that I have to swim 2 kilometers in April without stopping is something that is just a massive mountain. I don't even know how I'm going to get there. But like I did last year, if you told me the first time that I did a run that I'd have to do a marathon, I wouldn't have believed you. So I'm assuming that the same rules apply. When it comes to trying to balance that, my current split is Mondays are always my rest days, and then throughout the Tuesday to Sundays when I'm working is when I'm kind of fully in training mode. Obviously balancing it with a full-time job where I'm working 8:30 to 6:30 Monday to Friday is definitely difficult. All my life at the moment now is just training and work. It revolves around the two things that I really, really enjoy. It's like sales and just performance and inside and outside of work. But what I'm going to break down on my phone here is going to be the full setup, my triathlon setup, so that I can bestow upon you the knowledge that you might need if you're thinking about doing a triathlon, thinking about doing a half Ironman, and you're brand new and you don't have an idea what you're doing. So first order of business was for me to get a bike. When it came to getting a bike, I had no idea. I had to research everything, starting from scratch. I hadn't owned a bike in about 10 years. I really hadn't done any cycling in about 10 years. Last time I got a bike was probably, when I was 14 or 15. So never had gotten a road bike, never had gotten a racing bike, zero familiarity with it, and went into a bike store in Dubai. First of all, I went into the Trek store and they wheeled out bikes for 40, 50,000 dirhams. I thought, fuck that. I need something that will be an entry level. Even still, entry level road bikes are really, really expensive. So I went to the bike shop, told them what the situation was, what I was going to be training for, and it's entry level road bike. What he decided was, got my measurements done. I got everything done, and I told him about my budget. It was like 4K, 4,000 dirhams, which is like €1,000. And he took me through what was available. There's a lot of initial setup costs when it comes to triathlon training. So it's not really something that you can kind of passively do like running. All you do with running is just get a pair of shoes and just go out and run. And it's really not that deep. When it comes to triathlon, it's quite expensive. So the first thing I did was got that bike. I got the bike you see behind me, which is the Scott Speedster 30. Honestly, I hadn't a clue what he was talking about. I think there's carbon fiber frames or something and a bit of aluminium. Slowly but surely, I'm going to get used to it. Scott Speedster 30 for 4,500 dirham, which is like €1,100 for the bike. Not necessarily cheap, but it definitely wasn't the most expensive after they kind of set my standard of 60 and 50k being the most expensive bike. So anyways, it was what it was. There was a helmet going to be included in the bike package for 4,500. Then I started kind of feeling the PTSD of growing up with a overly sized head. They didn't have a helmet that fit me. There was no helmet in the entire shop that fit me. So I wheeled out my bike, whatever. I went away with no helmet, quite disappointed, but I was used to it and I was expecting it. I was like, look, they're not going to have a helmet that fits me. Went into another bike store, no helmet that fit me. Went into another bike store, no helmet that fit me. Went into Decathlon with a big range of helmets, no helmet that fit my goddamn head. So then I ordered 2 helmets from the US. I started looking up like the biggest fitting helmets that were on the market and finally came across 2 options, the Gyro Syntax and then the Met Idolo. I think they were XL, like 60 to 63 centimeters. And I ordered those. And lo and behold, it was going to take 2 weeks. It was what it was. So then I went out cycling without a helmet onto a cycle track in Meydan in Dubai. And this is the thing with cyclists, they get really, really involved in your business. Like, I mean, they've such big opinions. Like, I was going around cycling and people would be shouting at me, helmet. Fucking not that deep. Like, it's none of your business if I get brain damage. But I finally was waiting. Then the helmets came. I have them here. This is the Met. What is it? The Met Idolo. Nice, decent fitting, XL, obviously. It ranges between 59 and 64 centimeters, but there was even though some helmets were like saying 62 centimeters, some of them just weren't fitting. Anyways, got this helmet. Thankfully, it fits. I got the 2 just in case that one didn't fit. And then this is the Gyro Syntax. Yeah, the Gyro Syntax. This fits as well, so I was absolutely delighted that 2 of them fit. To be honest, I prefer this one. Definitely does make my head look absolutely massive, even bigger than it is. So I decided I'm just going to keep the both. Like, I'm not really bothered returning one of them. I assume it will be convenient if I do have people like visitors that don't have helmets, like my brother, if he ever decides to come over. he is also a big head. It's genetical, I think. It's a family trait, probably from my father's side. Anyways, so I got the 2 helmets sorted. They were 700 dirhams for the 2. Then I started looking at shoes, so like bike shoes. So I was going out cycling in this track in Maidan, which is like a 15-kilometer loop, and you can do the bigger loop that gets up to like 40, 50, 60k, I believe. Started doing a bit of training there. Didn't have shoes, bike shoes or the bike clips, so I was just using the normal pedals on my runners. It was okay because the bike pedals that he gave me were quite decent, but I mean, everybody that was cycling there had those fancy bike shoes, so I decided to pick up a bike shoes. I picked up the Specialized 1.0 something shoes, yeah, and they were 500 dirham, €125. I put them on, they fit pretty well. Still haven't figured out how to attach them. I'm going to go to a bike store later on today and figure that out. Then got the bike pedals, the Shimano 105 SPD-SL, I don't know. And thankfully they fit within the shoes. They were like 400 dirham. How they fit on the bike, I don't know. There's some Allen keys required, manual labor. I'm going to go to a bike store before I fuck anything up or break something. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. So that is going to be 400 dirhams. So that was kind of the whole bike situation. Like, I think 4,500 for the bike, 700 for the helmets, 500 for the shoes, and 400. Like, you're talking, yeah, over 6,000 dirhams, which is €1,500. Like, I mean, that's not that cheap. But I mean, once I buy these things, I buy them. And then I can see what the future holds in terms of this whole triathlon thing. But it is what it is. Then swimming. Swimming is like my biggest weak points. I'm thankful there's a lot of decent swimming facilities in Dubai, but I had to sign up to a new gym. The gyms that I had, warehouse gym, the package I had didn't include the warehouse gym in Jumeirah Park here in Dubai, which is got the Olympic-sized swimming pool. So look, I decided to get Privily. I said it is what it is. Like, I mean, I've got all these options for other gym memberships. I get gym membership included free with my work. And my gym membership from last year was running out and it was included in Privily anyways. So it was 5,000 last year. So I decided to sign up for Privily, get all the gyms included, including the one that I was in last year on the Palm Jumeirah. And what I did was I signed up for Privily. That was an eye-watering 6,828. Ended up saving a lot of money if I signed up for the year, so I decided to do that. So I've got access to the pool. First few swimming, I'm swimming twice per week, but like the first time I swam, I was like, what is even going on? Like, I thought I knew how to swim, and I'm trying to swim 50 meters, and it's just not working. Like, I mean, I was absolutely wrecked. And by the time I got back from the 50 meters, I would be completely out of breath. Like, completely out of breath. I thought I was going to drown, genuinely. So something had to improve there. And the second time I swam, it got a bit better. I had got goggles, I got a swimming hat, and then the third time, a bit better. Like, time and time, I was getting better and better and kind of improving my form, getting more used to being in the water without drowning. But I decided I needed swimming lessons, like just private one-to-one swimming lessons, just to kind of get the good fundamentals right. And then after that, then build a decent base and then work up my kind of fitness. Because like, I was really straining when it came to swimming, that I was kind of just really suffering, and it was way more difficult than I thought it had to be. Apologies for the cut there. Let me double check if this is still recording. This will be my first lesson. This is my first lesson of recording content on my phone. Usually I record it on my camera or my MacBook when it comes to podcasting. So this was recording for the last 30 minutes, but only the last 15. The first 15 minutes were taken. So I just missed 15 minutes of me speaking, which would be lost forever. So I was talking about the fact that I signed up for swimming. Yes, we're still recording. On my swimming kind of situation. Yeah, signed up for Privily. My first sessions in the pool were extremely difficult. I had a lot of issues when it came to how difficult it felt. Um, I hadn't swam in years. Obviously swimming at the beach and in the pool every now and again really doesn't count. I assumed I knew how to swim. First session, got in the pool, it was really difficult. Felt like I was choking the whole time. Couldn't regulate my breathing. Felt very fatigued after the first 50 meters and was suffering, really, really suffering. And I was like, okay, it is what it is. Got to the second session. Second session felt a bit better. Improved my breathing technique. Got a bit more used of being in the pool. And then in the third session, started feeling more familiar with the whole thing, with the whole experience of swimming. So that was better. But still, I knew that there was a lot of work that needed to be done. So decided to get a swim coach, and I paid for some private lessons. Private lessons were in the warehouse gym in Jumeirah Park, and they were going to cost me 300 dirhams per swimming session. Cut off again. It's a storage issue. So yeah, I've got another work phone, which is quite good. So I'm with no storage on it. So I might use this for the recording going forward. Where was I? Yeah, lessons, swimming lessons. Decided to pay for a swimming coach. The difference was absolutely massive when it came to the swimming. I was breathing really, really badly. I didn't really know how to breathe, and I was fatiguing really, really quickly. First swimming session was kind of a bit of a panic. It felt like I was drowning, trying to kind of hold my breath, and all I was doing was holding my breath and inhaling, holding my breath, inhaling, which made me feel like I was drowning underwater. Couldn't really catch a breath, couldn't regulate my breathing, and I found such a massive difference after that one session. He showed me how to breathe properly. Who knew that what you had to do was breathe out under the water and breathe in above the water? Didn't realize that that was the thing. Apparently it is. Maybe that's just from my severe lack of swimming in the past. So that was an eye-opening situation. Like, he told me to swim front crawl just to see what it was like, and he was like, there's so much we need to work on. My head was way too high above the water, which were putting my feet under the water too much, which made me kind of strain when I was kicking more. I wasn't kicking out of the water. My breathing was all kind of fucked up, very, very bad. So he just showed me how to breathe properly, and that made a massive, significant difference when it came to the perceived effort of the entire thing. And the before and after just of one session was absolutely insane. How it felt was completely different. I was in pieces after that session. He really did push it for the 50 minutes of swimming session that it was. So I paid for 5 of those, which is 300 dirhams each, as I said, which is 1,500 dirham. So when you put into perspective, 6,800 for the privy, which is for the year, for all the gym sessions, that kind of covers the swimming and the gym. And then the swimming was 1,500 for the first 5 sessions. So like that's like over 8,000, nearly 8,500. And then the bike was, 5.5, just under 5.5. So like when you think about it, you're talking about 1,400 dirham. I'm sorry, 14,000. Shit, 14,000 dirham. That is quite expensive. Yeah, very expensive actually, to be fair. But I feel like it's going to be the initial upfront costs. It's like 3,000 euros when you think about it, 3.5. It is what it is. I mean, this is the price that I paid. I signed up to it myself. Now, I definitely, once I decide to do something, I continue through it till the end. So if this will be me for the next few years, maybe, let's see. But it's quite a lot of money that it's kind of the sunk cost effect of what I paid it, so I have to do it. So that's where it is in terms of the swimming and cycling payments kind of side of things, and the kind of things that I needed in order to get set up. Running, there was no real investment there. I've been running for the last year, so I paid for things already in the past, like running vests or running shoes. Like I've got the Nike Vaporflies for speed sessions, and then the Hokas for longer sessions. And Nike Vaporflies were 1,300, and then Hokas were like 500. But they were payments in the past. Like all I have to do is drive to a run track, go for a run. It's really low barrier to entry. That's the beauty of it. That's why there's so many people doing it. And that's essentially it, to be honest. I probably do need with another pair of Hokas or a new pair of running shoes soon, but I won't impulsively buy them just after saying that I need them. which I'm quite partial to. So that kind of takes the whole three things. And yeah, as I said, it ends up being quite expensive. I do definitely have a decent aerobic base, as I said, so it's not going to be heavy in terms of the running side of things. In terms of the breakdown of what the whole week looked like in terms of training, 10 sessions, 10 sessions to begin with, 10 sessions probably for the whole entire time. Technically 9. So I've got 3 gym sessions, which are broken down by a upper session, a lower session, and then a full body session. Definitely working on some things that I needed to improve based off the feedback in the marathon training. I ended up getting very sore knees, sore hips, tight hips, all from a byproduct of really kind of weak and tight hamstrings. So I'm working on improving my hamstrings, doing a lot of different mobility work when it comes to the lower body, working on my hamstrings, working on my glutes, also working on my quads, working on my calves as well. And then when it comes to upper body, lower back was always a weak point of my body. And it caused the issues in my knees, it caused the issues in my hamstrings. Got the word is the muscles, and so I'm going to work on that. Again, it's a lot of compound movements, a lot of mobility, definitely some hypertrophy still in there towards the end of the session, so I'm still doing my bicep curls in order to kind of maintain and definitely progress. I'm noticing strength gains, still a lot of strength gains even though I'm training a lot. Noticing some size improvements even though I'm running a lot and training a lot, so is what it is, enjoying that, training for a purpose. I'm not just going in for a kind of vain physical appearance. I know obviously people are competing in bodybuilding, but when you're not competing for a bodybuilding show and you're in the gym training for bodybuilding, it doesn't really make sense. So definitely in there training for a purpose, training for how this is going to take into performance. So that's the 3 gym sessions. Then I'm doing 2 cycle sessions per week. This is for this week anyways, was a 20k cycle Tuesday morning, and then a 20k cycle tomorrow, and that is out in Meydan in the cycle track. Really sick setup, like unbelievable. I'm so grateful for the facilities that are here in Dubai. I'm absolutely blessed. That is a 12.5 kilometer loop. You can go bigger, you can go like 40k, I believe 60k, but I'm keeping it to the 12.5 at the moment and just doing like 2 loops or a loop and a half or a loop and 3/4. That's really cool. And they've got changing rooms and showers and cafes and stuff that it doesn't matter if I'm before or after work, I can shower there and put on a suit and go into work. So that is really, really enjoyable. That is the 2 sessions for the cycle, and then you've got 2 sessions for swimming, one of which at the moment is the coaching session. First session was just a build up in terms of the first time I got in the pool was like 50 meters times 5 with like a 1 to 2 work to rest ratio. So this means if it took me a minute to swim 50 meters, let's say for example, then I'd rest for 2 minutes. And then that increased in week 2, we went up to 10 reps. So again, same break, same work time. And then week 3, which is this week, we moved up to 15. My first session was on Wednesday. That was difficult. That was definitely difficult. It was like I felt quite tired after it. But again, as I spoke about, it was more because I was making it more difficult for myself. And then the second session, like he worked me hard for 45 minutes in that swimming coaching session. So that probably would have been the same amount of volume as the time that I was doing the 15. So potentially I might introduce a third one to account for the one that's been taken up for the coach, but I doubt it this early on because I'm only getting 5 sessions with him. That's just building good foundations. It's just building a decent amount of framework, groundwork for swimming, so then I can kind of push when it comes to distance after I've learned decent kind of swimming practices and kind of gotten rid of bad habits, because there was a lot of bad habits when it comes to swimming. Like, I mean, you don't need a running coach, you don't need like a cycling coach for like, definitely. Obviously, when you move up into kind of the higher bounds of it, you probably would benefit by using one. But swimming, it's vital. Like as soon as possible, get in, get a coach, 3 to 5 sessions, and then from there just build on. And then it will 100% be worth it just based off one session with him. So 2 swims per week. Then finally some running. Running sessions are 3, well technically 2. 3 including the Playbook Run Club, which is a run club that I set up in January of this year, which has like over 250 members. If you're free on a Saturday morning at Kite Beach in Dubai and you're looking for a group of people to run with, we had 30 people this morning, so hit me up. Plug. And the running is for the 2 other sessions. The first session is a tempo run. So this is something that I worked upon for my whole kind of time running. So it's a certain distance with a break, and then a certain distance again with a work to rest ratio like the swimming. So I'll give you an example. Last week would have been 500 meters by 4 with a 2 to 1 work to rest ratio. So if it took me 2 minutes to run 500 meters or a bit less, then I would rest for 1 minute. That was difficult. And this week was 1 kilometer by 2 with a 1 to 1 work to rest ratio. So week on week, we're going to try and keep the same amount of pace. The pace is determined based off a lactate threshold test that I'd done about 5 weeks ago, trying to keep within a heart rate of 153 to 171 when it comes to those tempo runs, which ends up being about just under a 4-minute kilometer pace. Just trying to keep in that zone and kind of push as hard as possible. Definitely push as hard as possible. I don't notice my heart rate going above 171. I really would have to be pushing hard for a long period of time for it to go over that. So trying to push as hard as possible within that and maintain it. That's the vital point when it comes to the tempo runs. And then Sunday I do a long run, trying to do a long run after my cycle so I can just get used to that feeling of going from the bike into a run. Last week I did the 18 kilometer cycle and then a 8 kilometer run after on the treadmill. This is zone 2. The run is really kind of zone 2 work. It definitely is difficult with the current weather in Dubai. Trying to keep at the 145 mark can be difficult for me. Running at 20 minute kilometers, whatever it is. If it spikes in terms of my heart rate, I definitely slow down the pace. But Sundays are always for long runs. I don't really need to push distance for this. I don't need to be doing runs that I was doing from a marathon training for the current Sundays, because the half Ironman is a half marathon at the end, and then the Olympic triathlon that I'm going to try to do in December is going to be 10 kilometers. So yeah, we'll see with the long run on a Sunday if we're really going to increase the kind of volume there, or distance, and just keeping as it is zone 2, just trying to keep in that kind of tempo. The Saturday run club, the social run, is definitely zone 2 as well. Depending on the heat, like it would be range about 140 or even slower sometimes, depending on how slow the pack is going. Like sometimes it's 138, but it is what it is. I'm not really treating it as a training. So that's the 10 training sessions per week. That's an overview of the costs. That's an overview of my current training, working in a block, and then a deload week, and then another block, aiming towards this Olympic triathlon in December, which is like it's 2.5 months away. Seeing what's going to happen with that, and I'm going to use that as just basically training grounds for a half Ironman. Still, obviously, we'll be trying, but it's just going to be more comfortable with the swim, transition into a cycle, transition into a run afterwards. Again, this is just completely outside of my comfort zone, completely something that I'm not used to. So we'll see how that goes. That's in December, so training towards that. That's the whole overview, and that's the kind of crux of what I wanted to speak about today, with periodic kind of breaks within this video. I am doing this because I'm trying to push what I'm capable of. I'm seeing how far I can push out the boat. Growing up, I was playing rugby, not to a high standard, playing Gaelic football. For anybody who's Irish and watching this, wasn't really athletic. Really wasn't athletic at all, to be honest. I was at the back of the pack when it came to doing any running drills. I was the last home for a majority of things, maybe 2 or 3 others. I was in the bottom 5 of, like, if we had to pick teams. So like for years, I really wasn't doing I wasn't doing great at sports. Like I don't have a lot of genetics when it came to that. Didn't really enjoy it, so it didn't really force me to push outside of it. So now it's just proving to myself what I'm actually capable of, how much of it is genetics and how much of it is just training and performance and time spent at the thing. So I broke a lot of my limiting beliefs when it came to marathon training, because when I came from growing up of not being good at sports, being kind of slow, being unfit, being overweight, like I was 110 kg before I stepped into a gym. So that gives you an idea of how kind of overweight and unfit I was. So I learned a lot from the marathon training and broke a lot of the limiting beliefs that I held of myself, because when I was that poor at the sports, I just assumed, I was like, I'm not an athlete, and I'm unfit, like I'm not a runner. If I left to my own devices, I'm just quite lazy or whatever, and I'll slip back to that older version of myself that I was really running away from. So this is just more of that, just pushing the outer bounds of what I'm actually capable of and having fun with it as well, because as I touched upon, those facilities are amazing. Like the fact I can go out and cycle for as long as I want with no traffic lights, no cars, and on a undisturbed cycle track in the middle of the morning, the sun rising, the warm outside, skyscrapers around me. And speaking of skyscrapers, they must be building one outside, because this construction noise is fucking insane. I do apologize if you heard any of it. And seeing what I'm capable of and really, really enjoying the sessions as well, because as I said, I'm so fortunate to be in Dubai. It really is a great training ground when it comes to endurance sports. Like when it came to training for the marathon last year, I was running on a spongy running track, and then you can run further. Like I could run uninterrupted for 18 kilometers, like with no stops, no traffic lights, no whatever, then 18 kilometers back. Like back home in Ireland, like I would have to, there's just not possible. Like I would be crossing roads, I'd be on the road in front of traffic, I would be just at traffic lights, bends, hills, whatever. I had none of that in Dubai. Like I didn't have to step onto a road that had cars. As I said, spongy running track for like 14 kilometers of it. Just good weather, no stop traffic lights, no bends, like no massive hills. So I really enjoyed that. So those facilities are amazing for running. The cycling facilities are amazing. The pool facilities are amazing as well. Like, I mean, the fact there's an Olympic-sized swimming pool outside and it's chilled I'm so fortunate for that. Like, it's like 36 degrees or something at the moment. And if I went to the pool, it'd be chilled, and being in the pool outdoors doing swimming is just unbelievable. Like I would have to go into an indoor swimming pool in Ireland, and I don't know, yeah, just not really as nice. So yeah, really blessed. The facilities, obviously I made some payments in order for me to even be able to gain access to some of them. The cycling is obviously for free, but in order to cycle you need a bike. So learning all the fundamentals, really enjoying the training, testing what I'm capable of. I learned so much about myself when I first ran, and I created that run club based on the fact that I was running. So this is just another one of those things. Just I've had so much revelation, so much insight into myself when I test what I'm capable of physically and test what I'm capable of mentally, and find out who I truly am and what I actually enjoy. Because that feeling of total exertion, that feeling of training for something for a long period of time and doing the thing and having friends and family around you when you finish is like no other feeling in the world. Like finishing the marathon in Prague and have my two brothers there, or finishing a run that I did with my family in Ireland up and down a mountain, like all of that, just the feeling after it is just amazing. So chasing those highs, chasing kind of the feeling of pushing myself and continual improvement and progressive overload and all that good stuff, and breaking my limited beliefs at the way. So that's essentially it. That's the reason as to why I'm doing this triathlon training. I'm trying to balance it with a full-time job, 50 hours per week, working as a real estate manager, leading a team of 12, which will be 20 by the end of the month, is definitely demanding. Working half 8 to half 6, doing gym sessions before and after. Our sessions before and after is definitely difficult. A lot of those days are kind of double days. I'm doing training twice per day. So it's definitely difficult. to begin with. But am I enjoying it? Yes. But that's essentially the whole overview of the costs, why I'm doing it, and my breakdown of my training. And that is episode 1 of I'm not sure what this is. A real estate manager, a real estate agent with a full-time job, training for a triathlon. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. There's plenty of errors in my speaking throughout this whole thing. Like and push the subscribe. No, like and subscribe. What is it they say? What am I a YouTuber now? Whenever they say like and subscribe. I hope that was of value of anybody who's considering doing a triathlon or working towards a half Ironman. They seem to be gotten very trendy. So if you're jumping on the bandwagon, maybe this video is for you. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in episode 2.